Hey, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you on a Sunday night. Sorry for the delay. We had a bit of an issue with the other studio location, but hopefully you're not dismayed by the lateness of the time. It is never too late. No matter what anybody says, it is never too late. We have our first person who's arrived. Welcome. Our second, our third, our fourth person. I'm inside tonight because it's a little loud out there. Hey, Michael. Hello. 77. How are you? There's Sophia. Hello. Amy D. Hi, Amy. How are you tonight? How is everybody? Good afternoon. Wow. Okay. We'll take that. Ah, the hat. Yes. You know, it was Oktoberfest here in town. And I didn't have a tie roll hat, so this is about as close as I could come up with. There's the owl in the background. Hello, John. John Rayubu from Ottawa. Welcome. There's Rebecca from California. I like this. People are shouting out where they're from. If you feel like doing it and chime in. Kind of Cuban. It is kind of Cuban. That's right. It is kind of Cuban. Can everybody hear me okay tonight? I'm just going off my desk mic. Am I in Cuba? Michael Maloney, all the way from Austin. And then Black Market Medicine from Australia. We got a global audience. This is the true meaning of globalization. This is where the world does have no borders. And it is very acceptable in terms of how we're able to exchange information and be with one another. Amy's from Northern California. We got a refugee from New Jersey out there. Sophia from St. Louis, currently in Albany, Georgia. Hi, Charles. And Beth from El Segundo. Got Gaithersburg, Maryland. There's Shari, Asheville. What's going on? Heather from Cali. All right. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, we had the big Oktoberfest. And, that's when, guys get out there and they pimp out in their lederhosen and their tie rolls and their little feathers. And there was this one dude, I just hung out there for a little while today. North Idaho. I was hanging out there for a little while today. And there's this one guy, he was like, you could just tell this guy was a world-class nerd. But he was so tricked out in his like German getup that all these women wanted to have their picture taken with him. Excuse me, because he was so legit. Hello, Joe. How are you? Anyway, this was my attempt at getting kind of tie rolled out without getting tie rolled out. And they say that hats are popular on YouTube. So I'm trying to, build my YouTube presence. Speaking of YouTube presence, guess who? Right on cue. There's Wandering Soul. I'm glad you're doing the show, not watching football. I know it's a big temptation. I did watch a lot of football today, however. I did. It is one of my dirty little pleasures. That's right, watching football. Mr. Jasper is supposed to be making an appearance here pretty soon. Currently watching my friend's cat. Hey, Jasper, can you come over here? Come on. Hey, people want to say hi. Come on, people want to say hi. Come on. You know how to do it. Oh. He wants to kind of look like Michael Savage. Oh, yeah, Michael Savage. I'm sure. There he is. Speaking of Savage, there's the Savage Beast right there. Right on cue. There he is. Yeah, I've got more hair than Michael Savage, though. Although he's got more zeros in his bank account. Yeah, there he is. He's a savage one. Here he is. There's the savage guy. Right on cue. Jasper the show cat. Hey, we got a lot to talk about tonight, don't we? We had the Brett Kavanaugh thing on Saturday. Kind of knew that was going to happen, even though there was a lot of sort of obstruction of process, and Brett Kavanaugh complaining about due process when he's really not a guy that really gives into a lot of due process himself when it comes to dealing with privacy and things like the Patriot Act and FISA warrants. And, he's always on the side of the government. So I guess the moral of the story is that if you belong to the right organizations and the right groups, you get due process, right? I think that's how it goes. Hello, Finke, aka Lynn. Hey, it's Rita. Hi, Rita. And Ani Brito. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Jasper says hello. It was a sideshow distract from the White House. I think the 5G meetings were part of it, Linda. Don't get me wrong. I think Trump is a big 5G whore. It's part of the control plan. But it also served to also distract from another major piece, which was Brett Kavanaugh's role in things like the Vince Foster cover-up and his role with the Patriot Act and torture and Guantanamo Bay and all that other stuff. That's really where a lot of it was. And of course, the 5G thing is a big deal, and it's a total control grid. And Trump is very hot and heavy on it. So apparently, I was watching Robert David Steele and listening to him, and these guys are talking about how this is going to lead to the military tribunals, and how it's going to, basically carry out the great QAnon plan. And I'm not convinced that that's really going to take place, to be quite honest with you. I'm not convinced. And if it does, then what we're doing is we're moving into, for all intents and purposes, a police state. And most people don't understand that or realize that. And I was talking with somebody online today, Mark, who's a really sharp guy politically. He's a Capricorn, So Mark and I were talking about it, and there's a very good chance, that this will be, because we're going to look at election night tonight. By the way, I've got 5 charts up over on robertphoenix.com that are lined up and ready to go. That we're going to go over all 3. And what I want to do is I want to look at sort of a 3-hour stretch, or roughly a 3-hour from about 8 o'clock to midnight, 4 hours. And I'm going to show you what's going on election night. And it's going to be very interesting. And I'm using Washington, D.C. as a location. So you can go to my website, robertphoenix.com. We'll be able to look at those charts. And then I'm going to look at a birthday chart. It's Chevy Chase's birthday. It's kind of an interesting chart, to be honest with you. And I think we'll be able to see why he performs and really what goes on behind the scenes with Chevy Chase. And then finally, the last chart we'll be looking at is a chart of a friend of mine. And she's somebody who is just turning 70 this year and is in a position where Saturn is getting ready to go across her midheaven. So we're going to have a look at that, and we're going to look at what that means and how it can impact her. And also this idea of astrology, place, and time, and transits as they relate to where we are at a certain point in our lives. So you go to robertphoenix.com, go over there, check that out, and grab some of those charts. Just look at them. You don't have to grab them if you don't want to. But this is what we're going to get into tonight, okay? We're getting ready to get into the new moon. Heather Eland and I talk a great deal about that in our latest upload on YouTube, which you can get on Heather's site. I'll be putting that up on her channel. I'll be putting it up on my channel tonight. A lot of really good information. And by the way, Heather and I are doing a webinar on Jupiter, the nodes, eclipses, and some other astrological errata and ephemera for 2019. Wow, how about that? 2019, just around the corner. And that's going to happen October 20th. And there are links up on my pages over on Facebook and also on Heather, Astrology with Heather, over on Facebook as well. It's the webinar is filling up. We're getting there. And we'd love to have more people. And if you've ever done a webinar with me, you get your money's worth. I don't clock in under 3 hours with a webinar. I've got a couple webinars over on AstroLiveStream. The one on Saturday is very close to 5 hours. And the last webinar that Heather did, I think it was around 3.5 to 4 hours. So you're looking at around 4 hours of really good, hardcore, intense astrological knowledge. And, we're good together. So go check that out. That'll be on the 20th of October. Pluto in Aquarius is coming. Yeah, it sure is. It's right around the corner, 2024. Pluto in Aquarius. What's the world going to be like? Are we going to be living in an Aquarian grid, the dark Aquarian age? Sort of this version of techno-feudalism, which I've been talking about for years now. And I'm gonna be very straight up and honest with you. I think that there's probably going to be a period where we will be. That's just my 2 cents. But I don't think it's going to end that way. Okay, and we get into that at another point in time. But techno-feudalism is what I've been talking about for a number of years. And it's the stacking of technology where there's a massive control grid and a small number of people are in control of the control grid. Now, it's really interesting to see if Trump is going to do this because, well, he wants to be an autocrat, technocrat, literally, and run everything. And there's a really good chance that that's the case. I mean, they just passed a law, by the way, which allows the government to shoot down any unlicensed or unauthorized drone with private drone without permission. They can do whatever they want. So if you have a drone, and doesn't matter if you're going over Elon Musk's parking lot or you're going over a football field or whatever, they can now take that drone out without any permission. The resistance is futile unless you use magnetic resistors. Ooh. How about anti-magnetic resistors so you can repel that? By the way, I got all loaded up on Shungite. I Shungited everything. I Shungited my computer. I Shungited my router. I Shungited my phone. I Shungited my TV. It's like I got Shungite, a lot of Shungite. Let's put it that way. A drone landed in my yard. I took it out. Good for you, Joan. Stacked magnets resisting each other. Yeah, torsion fields. There you go. Those torsion fields are really interesting. Super, super interesting. Did anyone see the end of the UFC fight yesterday in Vegas? Mayhem, right? Total mayhem. I was talking about with Robert Bonomo, who did the 21 Faces of God earlier. He should be in the chat room a little bit later. And it was nuts, right? The whole thing was just completely nuts. I've never really been able to warm up to MMA, even though I've encouraged my son to really get into jiu-jitsu because I think it's good for him. And he's actually become a bit of an MMA fan. But I've never been able to warm up to it. I was a boxing fan. I liked boxing a lot. Boxing is very, very different. There's more strategy involved in boxing. And there's something about MMA that is just, I don't have a problem with aggression, but it's like really brutal. And so Robert and I were talking about this, and I was saying that I think that it represents a level of aggression that we're kind of running around with. And that we, of course, a lot of people are really angry, or they have anger. A lot of people have anger and they don't know what to do with it. They have a very hard time like channeling their anger, because most people feel like when they get angry, what do they want to do? They want to kill somebody, right? That's what they want to do. They want to kill somebody. So that's not really advisable. We don't want to kill anybody. It's not a good thing. Joe says I'm wearing Shungite right now. Huge brawl. Yeah, it was a nasty, but that's been sort of par for the course with UFC and Conor McGregor. What he did with that, whatchamacallit, the boss, right? We threw the chairs. A lot of that is staged. I don't think last night was staged. Toxic liver equals anger. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's a Chinese medicine thing. But I believe that the conditions of our time basically stimulate people towards anger and repressed anger that they can't express. And a lot of it going all the way back to childhood when they felt very, very powerless. And so when we see something like MMA, what it is, it's like this new level of expression at a collective experience, right? I mean, that's a mirror of kind of what's going on in us in some ways, you know. It's an interesting mirror and not a pretty one either. Frequencies even make birds flight. Yeah, they do. Absolutely. Not Jasper, though. Not Jasper. Yeah, so we're going to get into the new moon tonight a little bit. And we're going to talk about sort of the energies for this new moon. Again, if you missed the webinar not the webinar, but the video that Heather and I did, it's up over on her page, her channel, and it'll be up here on my channel after the show. What few birds are left. We have a lot of birds here in Texas. I'm telling you, man, Texas is the last outpost. By the way, I ditched drinking LaCroix. I did it about a month ago. I went over to this wonderfully bottled water, and it's bottled in the Ouachita Mountains. This is what Emily and I drink. This is our thing. Right? We did it independently, too. We just showed up one night, started drinking it. But apparently LaCroix's got a bunch of shit in it, you know. No, yeah, man, I'm telling you, Texas is a place to be. They let you live like people for the most part here. I've been pulled over quite a bit in Texas. And I've never gotten a ticket. Can you believe that? I've been pulled over at least a dozen times since I've been here, since 2016, 2012 rather. And I've never gotten a ticket. In California, they'd be writing tickets, you know, like they were marriage licenses in Vegas, right? I mean, it's like here they just give you a little warning, don't do that. It's like, you know, going 8 miles over the speed limit, not a big deal. I had a tail light out one time, a couple times. Let you go, let you go, let you go, let you go, let you go. So it's kind of cool that way. Different authority trip here. Hey, Aileen, how are you? Almost no birds left from the community. We got birds here. We got all kinds of birds. Lots of birds. Lots of birds here. We got swallows, and we got, what are those birds called? Crackles or whatever they are. Cackles, or you know what they are. They move in big clouds. Got a lot of birds. We got birds of prey. We got cardinals out here. There's a lot of birds. Crystal geyser. I've been to the facility. Yeah. Am I wearing a diamond earring? No, I probably should though, huh? Maybe I should. You have a pierced ear. Yeah, Linda, you come down here. Live like a person down here for the time being. You never know what's going to happen. All right, you guys want to get some astrology since we've got 77 people? All right, let's get into some astrology. If you go to astro.com, you'll be able to see the chart of the moment tonight. Why don't we just go ahead and pop that bad boy up? We get to look at that. There it is, sun at 14, and the moon is at 29 right now. So guess what that is? That's a sun-moon conjunction for yours truly. Maybe that's why I feel so mellow tonight. It's the sun-moon conjunction. Well, right now here in Texas, the ascendant is Gemini, and Mars is on the midheaven. Mars is still a big player right now, squaring up against Uranus and Venus as well. And then we have the Venus-Uranus retrograde. This is something that Heather and I talked about at great length during the video of the new moon. So if you're in the chart of the moment, here's a thing that's really important to pay attention to. When you see the moon, you'll see it at 29. Tomorrow, the moon and the sun will be conjunct at 15 degrees Libra. Of course, that's when the new moon will begin. And then pay attention to this. This is what I talked about with Heather. Every single planet from that point forward, we're not going to count Chiron, but we will count Uranus. Every single planet from that point forward, with the exception of Uranus, all those planets are in the outer signs. All of them. All of them. Outer signs. Okay? That's a really interesting phenomenon. And even Uranus on the night of the new moon, I think it's in tomorrow night, it's going to be in the 12th house. So even though it's in a personal sign of Taurus, it's going to be kind of out of balance in the 12th house. So we talked about this. And this is a very, very interesting time. Because when we get into the full moon, which will be in, I believe, Taurus, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so full moon in Taurus, because the sun will be in Scorpio. Even then, on the full moon, we'll have that moon Uranus conjunction, which makes the moon kind of, archetypal in some ways. It makes it more than just a moon. It makes it an electric moon. Let's put it that way. So that's going to be going on, and all those planets now. We'll have the sun, we'll have Mercury. I mean, all these planets, Venus included, will be pushed out on the full moon in the outer signs. So it's a very powerful phenomenon. And there's a couple things that I was able to, like with Heather, kind of derive from it. The first thing is that the outer is going to take precedent over the inner. You're just not going to be able to get away from it for the next the next 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. It's just, it's not going to happen. Mars will be in Pisces by the end. It doesn't get into Aries until the beginning of the year. We'll begin to have some semblance of return to planets that'll start to make their way just slightly, ever so slightly, into the inner signs. Neptune will be in Pisces. Pluto's going to be in Capricorn. Saturn's going to be in Capricorn. Jupiter's going to be in Sag. This goes all the way up through the end of the year until we ultimately get into right around the sign of Pisces, when things begin to shift a little bit, and we have things like Mercury in Aries and Venus in Aries will come up. But this is a really powerful, powerful time in terms of dealing with the outer world, or not dealing with the outer world. You may want to run in the other direction and try to get into some of that open space away from the world. And I wouldn't blame anybody, because there's a lot of intensity going on in the world right now. A lot of intensity. I was listening to Trump's latest speech, and I have to tell you, I was blown away. I was blown away. It was the most articulate, focused, powerful speech he had given since he came into office and did his inaugural speech, which was great. I thought his inaugural speech was great. When you listen to that speech, I was like, holy shit, this guy is really freaking on. And he was connecting, man. He was connecting with these people. And I could feel the energy. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, that's up for you to decide. I'm just telling you, I could feel it. And he was on. And we're going to cover a little bit of Trump here when it comes to election night. You'll see what happens. I don't think the Democrats stand a chance in hell, by the way, on November 6th. I just don't. I don't. Kavanaugh could have been a game changer, and I am not a partisan person. I felt like that they were skirting the real issues, which was his record and not his drunken blackout moments. But that said, you can see now where things are going. And it was really fascinating listening to Lindsey Graham. And I've never, I've always thought of him as this little taciturn kind of, cracker Hitler. That's what I thought he was, because of his love for the military-industrial complex. Well, now that John McCain is gone, this guy's a different person. Maybe they rolled out the Lindsey Graham 2.0 or 3.0 model. I don't know, but this guy's a different person. It's like, holy shit, where did this guy come from? And then I began to dig around and listen to that Robert David Steele talk. It was on SGT report. And I'm not a big Robert David Steele guy. There's something about him that I don't trust. Anyway, I don't trust many people. I trust you guys, and I trust Jasper. Outside of that, you got to prove yourself. Anyway, he was talking about Lindsey Graham. He was talking about John McCain. And the reason why Lindsey Graham has kind of done this about face is because he's no longer under the shadow or whatever kind of control McCain had over him. This is what Robert David Steele was saying. If that's, well, that could be true. But if you look at it, Lindsey Graham was never really an ally of Trump. Well, McCain is gone. Jeff Flake is leaving. And Paul Ryan is going to be gone. I mean, these were kind of main opposition members inside the Republican Party that did not like Trump, and they're on their way out, which says to me that Trump's power is going to accrue. Now, I still want to see him get through the Saturn opposition, which is going to happen this year. It's a big, big time, huge time. But it's also really interesting, really, really interesting. I had 3 separate people tell me that Brett Kavanaugh was not going to get elected. One of whom was John Alexander, he's a great cartomancy guy, really great. And he looked at Kavanaugh's cards. He says he's not getting elected. Another guy who's a really good researcher, he emailed me and he says, I'm going on the record now and I'm saying that Brett Kavanaugh is not going to be elected. I'm like, okay, great. I said, well, if he is not elected, and he said, and when he's not elected, I'll reveal how I came to it. I'm like, great. I said, but the prophecy game doesn't work that way. You've got to like call it and then say why. It's kind of like when you're playing basketball and you're playing horse and you bank one off the backboard. You don't really want to shoot it that way. It's like, okay, you got lucky, kind of, right? And so by explaining it, it's like, oh yeah, that's a swish. It's right through. So I'm like, okay, well, let's see where it goes. And even Robert, I'm not here to diss Robert at all. He did a reading for the event. He did a reading for the last Friday event with Kavanaugh and the whole crew, right? Actually, it was 2 weeks ago, the week before Friday. And he saw 10 of Swords and Devil. So these were all they were basically lined up, sort of, how do I say this, from a geomantic perspective, right? They were like they were being read. One guy with his own research, another guy with cartomancy, Robert with the tarot, and they were all kind of consistent in some ways. So what happened? How did Brett Kavanaugh get elected? How did he skirt the influence? Now I saw basically what I saw with this South Node in Sagittarius said he wouldn't be a great justice. But I felt like there was a good chance the guy was going to get pushed through. Come on. You know it and I know it, right? Now, why though? Why? Is it because, well, it's because there's an agenda and he's part of the elite? And I would say it's probably both. Brett Kavanaugh is likely a Jesuit. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's a Jesuit. And there are pictures of him giving handshakes, Masonic handshakes to Mr. Trump. So when you're a Jesuit and a Mason, does that help you skirt your destiny in some ways or your fate? It's an interesting question. It's a very interesting question. And will that come out somewhere down the line? Can you consistently skirt your fate or skirt your destiny? And they're different, by the way. Fate is what you allow to happen to you. Destiny you cultivate. Pretty straightforward with that. Does belonging to societies with people who are very, very powerful create opportunities or dissolve any kinds of challenges that may not actually be there in the chart or that are developing kind of in the field, right? This sort of psychic field. I'd say the answer is yes. But can you do it forever? And I would say the answer to that is no. So, and this is no knock on any of these three guys. I think what they were reading was based on the energy and based on the momentum and based on sort of what the, how do I say this? The synchronistic output for those moments were. I think they were all pretty much probably right. But at the end of the day, it was the affiliation with groups and organizations that can make things happen in ways that can supersede destiny or fate, which is why they created these things in the first place. Am I right? To be God. I love this stuff. Okay, so let's get back into these outer planets and how. We're going to be dealing with externals and externalization for really to the end of the year. And if you can't handle it, if there's going to be too much energy that's going to be out there, I suggest you fall back into those open parts of the chart. Okay. Now this will be a melange with a lot of people. Like for me, all this will be at the top of my chart, so I'll be fine. I mean, I live up there anyway, right? But for some of you, it might be a bit much, so you may want to fall back and look at some of the influences in the opposite signs. For dealing with Pisces, you want to look at Virgo, deal with your health. Excuse me. If we're still in Aquarius, you want to go back into Leo and get out of your head and into your heart. With the amalgamation of energy beginning to really accrue now, with Saturn moving forward, you want to go to the opposite sign, Cancer, and get in touch with your feelings and be able to share your feelings with people that are really important to you. You know, with Sagittarius, Jupiter's going to be getting into Sag, and boy, oh boy, that's going to be a pretty interesting time, right? Jupiter, you you thought people, had a list of demands with Uranus and Aries. Wait till Jupiter and Sagittarius comes around. People are going to feel very right and very righteous with Jupiter and Sagittarius. You haven't seen anything yet. The level of righteousness with Jupiter and Sagittarius will be off the freaking charts. Off the charts. It'll be crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, yeah, and by the end of the year, we get into that Jupiter-Neptune square. And that's going to be you're going to have to really sort through stuff at the end of the year with the Jupiter-Neptune square. That would be almost like a perfect scenario for like a Project Bluebeam or something like that. You're really going to have to be very clear and lucid with that Jupiter-Neptune square at the end of the year, because things might be really believable and they may be completely wrong. And people may invest so much. Like I feel like if the QAnon stuff isn't resolved by the end of the year, like if Q doesn't show up in robes and the arrests aren't happening, that's going to be a very interesting time. It was really almost a year ago. We're getting close to the year anniversary of QAnon. Now, I believe this time last year, we were dealing with the Las Vegas shooting. It's only been a year since the Las Vegas shooting. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't the Las Vegas shooting feel like it was about 3 or 4 years ago now? And it's amazing. And just down the rabbit hole it went. Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy. Well, this Jupiter-Neptune square is going to be interesting, to say the least. What's real? And people will be so convinced during that time of their truth. That's the other thing that Uranus and Aries brought us. Everybody had their truth. Well, this is my truth. And like, yeah, your truth is fucking ridiculous. You should hear yourself. I don't care. It's my truth. It's not your truth. Okay. That was Uranus and Aries. Jupiter and Sag is going to be fascinating. A lot of self-righteousness. But there's also a lot of wisdom involved. If we can cut through the bullshit, we can tap into that. We can tap into the Godhead with Jupiter and Sagittarius. Of course we can. We can do it theoretically all the time. But Jupiter and Sagittarius is a really, really good opening for it. Just have to be careful of overestimating ourselves. So these outer planets, it's going to be fascinating. A lot of intensity out there in the world. You may want to withdraw, retreat, or jump in. Jump in and get in. Water is dark, cold, and murky, especially this time of year. Go for it. There's a lot happening out there. And of course, there's that run that we're going to be doing in Scorpio where everything gets to go real dark. Scorpio is a trippy time of year for me. That's when I decide, we'll take some time out. I'm gonna take some time. By the way, anytime the sun is going through your 12th house, which is what happens for me with Scorpio, you should take time out. You really, really, really should take time out. It's a time for you to think about things, reflect, be alone a little bit, maybe be creative. You're not in the world when the sun is transiting through your 12th house. It's a time for you to look back on your own personal year. Yes, your birthday is your solar year, but your personal year starts from the time that the sun hits your ascendant, whatever degree your ascendant is, and it goes all the way around the chart. So, for instance, if you're a Capricorn rising, then Sagittarius would be in your 12th house. And every time Capricorn would come around, the sun would hit your ascendant at some point, right? And then you'd have the start of your own personal year, which would last you 12 months. If you're a Taurus, then whenever the sun is going through Aries, Taurus rising, anytime the sun is going through Aries in the 12th house, right, comes out, hits your ascendant, and boom, there it is. Start of your own personal. Take that 3.5 weeks, however long it is. Some people have bigger 12 houses than others. God help you. Then however long that time is, just allow it. I mean, you can't always take 3.5 weeks off unless you want to take a vacation, which really I think would be great if you could. By the way, I always felt like whenever Saturn's going through somebody's 12th house, they should take that Saturn transit off. Just get out. Go to a monastery somewhere for about 2 years. Go chill out. Think about the last 30 years of your life, and then come back and join us 2.5 years later. Does that make sense to you, though? Anytime that sun is going through the 12th house, it's a time to recharge and reflect so you can start your personal year when it hits the ascendant. Okay? Alrighty. So tomorrow when you get up, there's going to be a Libra moon. But it will begin to conjunct the sun, but it will be in the balsamic phase. So when you get up, it'll be a balsamic moon. And we've talked about the balsamic moon before. It's a very bittersweet, tender, vulnerable kind of placement of the moon, where it is a phase of dissemination and letting go before the new phase kicks in. So tomorrow will be interesting. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if some of you who have to go to a workplace tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see and clock how many people are going through relationship issues. Because we have Venus retrograde in Scorpio. I mean, that is a motivator, number one. And then the final phase of the moon disseminating in Libra, right? It's like getting to that kind of let go place. So it'll be interesting if you go to work tomorrow. Listen to, or just keep your ears open, or just see if people talk to you about their relationship issues. I think it'll probably be kind of front burner for a lot of people. And the Venus retrograde in Scorpio is really about looking at commitments in your life that you have thought have been fixed in a lot of ways. This could be an interesting Venus retrograde. I have to say, I'm not as down on it as maybe I will be in about 2 weeks. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think that this Venus retrograde can be interesting. Let's just say let's play the game here for a little bit, right? Because it's retrograding and opposing Uranus, and it's gonna go all the way back to like was it 26, 26, 25, 26 Libra. So it's gonna go over Uranus in this opposition 2 times. It's already gone over it once when it was going direct, but it's going to go backwards and it's going to oppose Uranus. And then it's going to go all the way back to like 25, 26, come back and oppose Uranus one more time. I have some hope that you feel like a relationship that's been to the point where you don't feel like you can't get out, or the dynamic between you and another person is stuck. And it could be any relationship. It could be a parent-child relationship. It could be a husband-wife, wife-husband, boyfriend-girl, whatever. Whatever that relationship is, if you have been feeling stuck and immovable, fixed, there's some movement here. But in order for the movement to take place, do you really have to go back and retrace things? It might be helpful. It might be. But we're dealing with Venus. And remember, Venus, it takes 2 to tango with Venus. So somebody else may actually bring up something. You won't have to do anything. That's quite possible. The biggest, I think, surprises are going to happen during the opposition. That's when things can change very, very quickly. Now, you never want to break up during a Venus retrograde. Never want to do that. Because if you break up during a Venus retrograde, you probably want to get it back together. I'm just saying. Just saying. If there are hidden power dynamics in your relationship, it's a good time to bring them up and to talk about them. It's a very Venus Scorpio kind of deal, right? So I actually think this is going to be. I think this is a positive retrograde, and I'll tell you why. Because look at that trine between Venus and Neptune. Neptune's at 14, Venus is at 10. Of course, it's going to come all the way back, but it's going to come back in trine again. And we get into that Venus-Neptune trine. It's like compassion, with relating with one another, spiritual bonding, dissolving, letting go. I really feel like we can untangle a lot of things with this Venus retrograde. I know I'm putting a lot of faith and stock in it, but I feel good about it. Of course, we're going to have to get into the power of dynamics, or dynamics of power and control. We saw that, by the way, with #MeToo, Venus-Mars square. Hello. I saw this great video with Camille Paglia. I love Camille Paglia. But whenever she talks, it's like she's high on meth. I know she's not high on meth, but she talks like it. She's an Aries. Could you imagine? I think she's got Sun, Mercury, conjunct in Aries. Could you mind being in that mind, the Camille Paglia mind? She had some really great things to say. She gave a talk not long ago, and she was talking about #MeToo, and in a lot of ways, and this is what I've always loved about her, because she thinks outside the box and how disempowering it's become. And she said a long time ago, men and women lived in separate worlds. They occupied different universes. And she said, and they didn't get together very much. And she's referring to like the agrarian era. You know, men went out, did their thing, and women stayed home, and they would eat together, and men would go out at night, and women would hang out with other women. And there was a very, very powerful, she said, during that time, that half of the world, women were in complete control and ruled everything. And she made a great deal of sense. And she said also, because of this, there was a much greater relationship to the extended family. Much greater relationship to the families, did things together. Fascinating talk. Absolutely fascinating. And that's what's happened with women, is that now that they've moved into the marketplace with men, and there's never been any time when more men and women are in the marketplace, the job place together simultaneously. And she's talking about how many of them are not very happy now. And she's talking about a very specific type of woman. She said she's been all over the place. She just did a lecture in Brazil, and she ran into a bunch of women in Brazil who were in their 50s, late 40s, up through their late 50s, and many of them were very, very unhappy. Even though they were successful, they were very unhappy. Anyway, she was talking about fascinating stuff. Really, I love Camille Paglia. A lot of feminists don't like her. I think she ruffles a lot of feathers, but I also think she's pretty fair in her own way. Anyway, this Venus-Mars square is going on, and it's going to continue to go on. We haven't really left the octagon of the Venus-Mars square quite yet. But over the course of the next few weeks, Mars will continue to move on and Venus will move backwards. And perhaps, just perhaps, some of the tension on a public or collective level will begin to dissipate, right? Tomorrow, when the moon goes into Libra at the new phase, it will be square Pluto, as will the sun. A lot of people will be holding on to emotions and feelings in ways that are very intense and deep, perhaps even a bit obsessive. Remember, it's a new moon, and you can repattern during the new moon. I think there's some meteor showers or something like that tomorrow night. Is it the Arca? It's not the Leonids. Arcanids? Anyway, there's meteor showers happening on a new moon. You may want to check that out. I may go out to Enchanted Rock tomorrow night. Go check that out. See what it's all about out there. I'm the rock at night, but I think a journey into darkness. Maybe after the football game. All right, let me check in with y'all in the chat room, see how we're doing in there. Let's see. Oh, we got a little birthday. Christopher Little. Hey, happy birthday, Christopher. Happy solar return. Happy solar return. Tanya has Venus and Scorpio in the 12th house. Okay, Tanya, if you have Venus and Scorpio in the 12th house, just make sure that you use enough cement around the body so that it doesn't resurface, okay? Use extra cement. That's all I'm saying, all right? The Orinids, I think so. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding, Tanya. You know what I'm talking about. Just kidding. Draconids. There we go. Draconids. Robert, how is Uranus? Is Tim Bean a wise guy? Uranus in Taurus? I think it's just fine. It's right where it needs to be. Yeah, that's right where it needs to be. I could go so many directions with that, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm outside with new moon fire now. Hey, who should do a little? Need to do a little unconditional love tonight. We have to have an unconditional love moment. Who can we give a little unconditional love moment to? Who's in there right now? Who do we want to share a little? How about Darcy? Darcy, you're right there. You're the lowest on the screen. Let's give a little unconditional love tonight to Darcy. Let's give it up. Let's give it up to Darcy. Here we go. This is what we do one night every Sunday night. Here we go. Darcy, little unconditional love. Right there. Right there. Right there. There you go. There you go. There we go. I love this part. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. I love this. I love to see. Last few guys were like crazy creative, man. You're going into all the emojis and stuff. It was freaking great. It was so great. I loved it. Let me see if I can get on the emoji thing. Let me see if I can do this. Bring some emoji up here. I get emoji just like everybody. Look at this. Look what I'm doing. There we go. I'm doing some Jasper emojis for you, Darcy. There we go. How about that? Here we go. Oh, man. All right. Well, thanks for showing out. Showing up and showing out. I love it. Look at that. I love it, man. The emoji explosion. You just feel those emojis. Just get there. Yeah. Uranus needs unconditional love. Oh, Tim, you're incorrigible, Tim. What are we gonna do with you? All right, hey. As soon as we're all finished dousing Darcy with unconditional love, we can go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and I've got some charts up there. I just wanted to chart election nights. You guys can check it out and look at it. Hey, welcome, Casey. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There she is. There she is. The flavor girl. The flavor girl has entered. Welcome, welcome, flavor girl. Okay. Let us go to my website. We're going to look at election night. I found something that was pretty interesting for election night. Linda, we gave you some unconditional love, was it 2 weeks ago? I hope that helped your Saturn in Capricorn, by the way, at 29 degrees. All right, so go to my website, and we're going to look at the some charts here. I got 5 charts. Count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 charts. 3 of them have to do with election night. Okay. So here they are. They're just stacked up there. So the first one is election night at 8 p.m. And I want you guys to check this out. Okay. This is 8 o'clock in Washington, D.C. It's going to be 6 o'clock Pacific Standard. That means that there are going to be a number of results in at that time. Perhaps enough to name quite a few winners. Au contraire, at 8 o'clock at night, Neptune is on the midheaven. And this is a very fuzzy picture. Very, very, very fuzzy picture with Neptune on the midheaven. And the square, and this is what me and Robert talked about a couple of weeks ago. We've got that square to Mercury going on right there. You see that? Right there. Mercury square to Neptune. So what do we get into? We get into Mercury Neptune squares. Obfuscation, lying, delusion, hyperbole. These are all elements of a Mercury Neptune square. Bad intuition. Psychic information that is incorrect. Yeah. Delirium. Delirium can also be kind of a result of a Mercury-Neptune square. So this is what's going on in election night. Now, over the course of the next few days, guess what's going to happen? Mercury is going to move closer and closer and closer into that square. So at 8 o'clock at night in DC, I see some confusion here. I got to tell you, there's some confusion. And one of the things that we talked about is the vote counting in general. And this is a prime time, 8 o'clock at night. Now there's some other decent, incredible aspects going on here. Some are okay. Mars Uranus sextile. That's fast. That could be people being announced very early to win, but also there could be things like, I wouldn't say it'd be a blackout, not at that point in time, but there's definitely some crossed wires here. So you're gonna have people saying there are gonna be predictions. They'll happen very quickly, meaning what I mean by that is projections. That's Mars Uranus sextile. It's gonna be fast, right? Fast. Uranus is retrograding back to Aries too. Look at that. It's not in Taurus anymore. So Tim says Uranus needs love. Well, certainly in Aries it will be. But there's a big opposition happening, and that's with Venus. Venus going all the way into 27th degree of Libra, and it goes all the way back to 25. So it's about 2 degrees before it stations. And then the moon is also going to be kind of swept into this opposition as well. And by the way, that is not a new moon. It won't be a new moon until the following night. So what do we have here? We've got that balsamic moon, that disseminating moon. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. You know, that's a moon. The moon in Scorpio, people do not want to let go. Now, the moon in Scorpio is very intense. Some of you out there may know what I'm talking about. I think it's a very powerful moon. I think if you can learn how to live with the Scorpio moon, you can reach a level of real mastery in this lifetime. It's not easy, though. I don't know. I get that I think there's gonna be shouts of certain elections being contested. I mean, we saw that, right? This is the 2-year anniversary of when Trump got elected. 2 years. So Mars, when Trump got elected, was at the 29th degree. It's a very interesting degree for Mars, 29-0 in the Sabian symbols. There was a deal made. It even comes out in the Sabian symbols. That's why it took. I don't want to get in. I don't want to read them. Okay, I'll read it. I have to. It's a good Sabian symbol. You guys will dig it. Hold on. Okay, let me just do this real quick. So let's see. This is what was going on the night of the election. And I talked this with Regina in our show. To 031. Hold on. Do this. Yeah. It was at what was it? It was, hold on, what was this degree? Where is this degree? Hold on. It was back in time. Oh, right. Yeah, it was Capricorn 30. All right, I have to go back. I have to go back and look at. Let me go back. Okay. Now I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission now. Give me 1 second. I'm on a mission. All the way back to 2016. You guys remember 2016? Seems like centuries ago. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we're going to go back to 11/9, which is the, by the way, the commemoration of the Bolshevik Revolution. What were we looking at? 11/9. So we had the moon at 29 and 1. Let's see, where was it? Yeah. Right? No, it was 20. Yeah. Okay. This is what it was. Mars was at 29 Capricorn on the night of the election. Okay. So it goes 29 to 0. So Rudyer reads it as Capricorn 30. This is what was going on the night of the election. You ready? A secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. That's what was going on the night of the election. There were deals being made. The power to assume responsibility for control, choices arrived at after mature discussions with those who share this power. We are all aware now of the work of secret committees in the White House and at all levels of the government. The student of esoteric philosophy believes in the existence of what has been called an inner government, which has the power to direct or guide the evolution of our planet and our mankind. So Rudyard's really into the Great White Brotherhood. Some people speak of a cult hierarchy or of the White Lodge. Here again, what is at stake is seeing through the facts of telluric processes in human history, assuming that these facts are at least in part the outcome of the decisions of a supreme council of quasi-divine beings. Obviously, the symbol can also refer to what occurs at the more ordinary level of business and politics. At any level, it refers to the highest form of social interaction. This is the last symbol belonging to scene 20 and related to the zodiacal sign Capricorn. We see it in the culmination of social responsibility and a reference to executive power. By the way, Linda Gordon, that's your Sabian symbol right there. So that's what was going on the night of the election back in 2016. That's where Mars was. Very interesting, as Artie Johnson used to say. So if we go back to that chart, I really just wanted to get your attention, your head wrapped around that Neptune on the midheaven. It's a really interesting place, but maybe it won't be that interesting on election night. Okay, so the next chart that you can look at is just below it. It's chart number 2, and this is at 11 p.m. So this is going to be 3 hours later. And at that point, pay attention now to the ascendant. At 8 p.m., it's at 4 Cancer. At 11 p.m., it's at 11 Leo. And what do we have on the midheaven? We've got Uranus right on the midheaven at 11 p.m., which is going to be 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You know what I see here? I see riots. Uranus on the midheaven at 11 o'clock at night. There's going to be shit going down. I'm telling you. It is not going to be civilly obedient right around this time. And some of you may think that that's a great thing. Others, perhaps not. Okay? Just keep your eye on that. See, we went from Neptune on the midheaven to 3 hours later, Uranus. Okay, so if we go down to the next chart, all right, this is where it gets really interesting. We have the midheaven, which is in Taurus. And whatever's happened is already in motion. But at midnight, that ascendant is at 22 Leo. And Donald Trump's ascendant is at what? Isn't that 26 Leo, if I'm not mistaken? 26 Leo. Or 20, is it 26 or 27 Leo? It's close. Hold on, I'll let you in a second. Give me one moment, and I'll tell you. Because it's important for me to be accurate. Uno momentito. Jasper's restless. So Trump's ascendant is at 29. 29, okay? His Mars is at, let's see, 26 Leo. 26 Leo. So on election night, that ascendant is going to be 7 degrees away from his ascendant. And that's at midnight. So by the time we roll around post midnight, which will be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock Pacific Coast, Trump's ascendant will match the ascendant of that night. And he'll have a Mars opposition going on. This is a very interesting time for him. It's not quite completely opposite yet. That'll happen in the days after the election. But I would say that by the time we get to midnight, 1 o'clock, even though I do believe that we could be looking at civil unrest with that Uranus on the midheaven, that this is going to more or less confirm Trump for the next at least 4 days. Now, if perchance that this election goes to the left, then in the days to follow, Trump will have to engage in a Mars-Mars opposition and a power struggle to keep himself alive if it goes that way. If it doesn't go that way, The Mars-Mars opposition might perhaps be even more ominous. Since his Mars is in the 12th house, and transiting Mars will be in the house of open enemies. In either case, I believe that Donald Trump is going to be in the crosshairs in the days after the election. And probably the most dangerous and perilous time for him and the country in many ways. This is not your run-of-the-mill ordinary election. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Just pay attention. Pay attention from the period that starts at 8 o'clock to midnight. Watch what happens. Okay. I got a few more charts here that I wanted to get into. You know, I wanted to do the Pope's chart. I'm going to do him next week. So it's going to be Chevy Chase's birthday. In fact, I think it's tomorrow. And he's got an interesting chart. You know, he's got a kite pattern. And you can see the performer in Chevy Chase. If he's not Jim Morrison. You guys know that story, right? Crazy story. Anyway, Pluto on the midheaven, true node up there, Jupiter and Leo, all Pluto, Leo, true node Leo. This guy's a performer. He's born to perform, of course. But he has nothing below the horizon. Nothing. Except for the moon. And it's in Aquarius, and it's in the 4th house. So he's all out there. Chevy Chase is all external. And what's interesting also is the fact that his sun is in the 12th house. And so we don't even really know this guy. You know, what we see of him, we see all the kind of the clown, the comedian, the actor, the pratfaller. But there is a lot about Chevy Chase we don't know. Very interesting documentary on National Lampoon. And it talks about this guy, Doug Kenny. And Doug Kenny was the guy that basically took National Lampoon into the stratosphere. He wrote Animal House, and he and Chevy Chase were really good buddies. They did a lot of drugs together. You can see the drug addiction in Chevy Chase's chart, that Mars-Neptune square. There's an interesting thing in the movie where Doug Kenny has been really super depressed. Super depressed. And it was because Caddyshack got terrible reviews. Of course, that was his movie. Chevy Chase was in it, Bill Murray, etc. So he went to Hawaii and was doing all kinds of coke and stuff. And Chevy Chase went out to go see him and hang out with him. And he's got this weird comment in the movie. And Chevy Chase had, I think it was they had two rooms. Chevy Chase was above Doug Kenny's. And he looked down below and saw Doug Kenny's shoes on the patio of the room. Or on the floor of the patio, rather, the deck. And then he looked down and he saw that Doug Kenny had jumped out of the room. And he makes this weird crack about pushing him out the window. It's a very strange comment, very dark. So it's on Netflix, and it's a documentary on Animal House. If you go to that one part, you'll see it's like, wow, what's really going on here with this guy? Anyway, we know the performer. We don't know the man. 12th house sun. But he is funny. He's very, very funny. He got into trouble on Saturday Night Live the other night, didn't he? Or he was dissing Saturday Night Live. And the Pluto and Scorpio kids, they went after him. Pluto in the 1st house, transiting Pluto. Their Pluto, his 1st house. But you can also see the drug. He had big time cocaine problems. See that Mars square to Neptune, Mars in the 8th house. Yeah, so there's this guy named Ed who used to do all this stuff around people who are like real actors who play a number of different roles. It's like a bunch of different roles. He has some really crazy, like, well, this person's this person. Well aware one, Ed Chiarini. Anyway, some of the stuff is interesting. And some of the stuff is just so far out, they just completely discredit everything. Anyway, He believed that Chevy Chase was actually Jim Morrison. No, Sun in 12th house. You never know, right? Never know. Anyway, there's Chevy Chase's, and no water in Mr. Chase's chart. Got to make sure to hydrate, Chevy. Look at that. He's got no water. A lot of fire and air. And that Earth, where's that Earth? Earth is in Virgo. Mercury and Venus in Virgo. Boy, that's critical Earth too. Might be hard being Chevy Chase, to be honest with you. Okay, let's go down to the final chart here. And this is actually a friend of mine. I don't think she would mind if I did this. This is a friend of mine. I wanted to really just show this as an example of astrology in action. Okay. Now, my dear friend Linda, who you can see just turned 70 years old on the 21st of August. She's still in the workforce, and she never went to college. Linda never went to college. But here she has Saturn going through her 9th house. And in many instances, people who have a Saturn transit through the 9th house might actually go to college late in life. Well, lo and behold, she's getting a certification to add to her job. She's involved in, she lives in California. Please don't hold this against her. We love her. But she's a lead accredited person, and she's involved in sustainable building. She knows it too. But she got into this when she was, Linda's not really red pilled either. She's more pink pilled. I think she'd agree with that. Anyway, but she's getting this sort of this accreditation to add on to what she's doing. And here it is. It's the Saturn in the 9th house. So she's getting some sort of certification. And the amount of time it's going to take her to get from the accreditation or the course, the taking of the course, is right around the same time when Saturn's going to hit her midheaven. And when Saturn hits the midheaven, it is a peak. It is a peak in one's life. It's taken 15 years to go from the bottom of the charts all the way to the top and accrue all the experiences and hopefully tools along the way, so that when it hits that midheaven, that it's a great time for the person to basically say, here you go, world. Here I am. It's what I've been working on. And I'm planting my flag right on top of the chart for everybody to see. And it usually initiates a period of very strong, intense work for however long Saturn's in that part of the chart. When I started the website, Saturn was right at the top of my chart. It was going through my 9th house. And when I really, hit in full, Saturn was on my midheaven. It reached my midheaven. This is back in 2008, 2009. I had a really good run with Saturn in my 10th house. So one of the things that she asked me, which I thought was really interesting, she said, well, I'm on a limited budget. I belong to this women's group, and it's a support group, and blah, 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 blah. And I pay X amount of money for this each month. Or I could take that money and I could put it towards this accreditation. I'm like, well, look where Saturn is at the top of your chart. It's like you're dealing with Saturn energy. It's not at the bottom of your chart. If Saturn's at the bottom of your chart in the 4th house in Cancer, I'd say, yeah, go Team Femme. But this is in a different part of her chart now. So she's making a sacrifice, and she's moving away from that Cancerian energy to the upper part of her chart where she can actually perhaps be more successful than she's been, actualize. And it could be a really powerful time for her for the next 2 years. Look, everybody's going to go through the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. We can't get out of it. And for her, it's going to be in the 10th house. And it could be, we don't know how the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is going to hit us. The economy could crash. We could have an EMP pulse. We could have a new government. There's, it's going to be intense. We can't, this is a big deal, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So we're all going to be affected by it. And ultimately, could it be positive? Sure. Absolutely. If we're willing to go past our fears, because Saturn is going to move past Pluto at some point, both on a collective level and an individual level. So if we move past our fears, we'll be fine. Will be absolutely fine. Now, the South Node will be transiting up here at the same time. So I do believe that Linda will achieve a level of success with the Saturn transit up at the top part of her chart, and will continue to have a level of success all the way through this period here where Saturn's going to move into her 11th house, which is very, very social, Aquarius, groups, group living, all that stuff, right? Now, will she meet some resistance and have to deal with some Capricornian pieces around this? Absolutely. She might have to deal with regulations, the government. She might have to deal with people that say no to her ideas or projects. That's the way it goes sometimes. That's the way life is. You have to, again, soldier on. And that transit, by the way, where Saturn goes over the South Node it's fairly temporary. It'll last roughly about 2 to 3 weeks most. But I wanted to bring this up because here's somebody who's 70 years old, and they're primed in a lot of ways to have the most amount of success they've had in the last 30 years, potentially, at a later time in life. Later time in life. And so what's really important to understand about a transit like this is that in a lot of ways, that from an evolutionary standpoint, she could have this success. She could broaden it in terms of organizations and groups, and it's Aquarius, it's California, so it'd be just fine. So this is like about a 5-year run. That puts her at 75 years old. And then what? Saturn moves down into her 12th house and eventually conjuncts her moon, right? So this is going to be basically 3, 6, 8 years. She'll be 78, Saturn on the moon. Hello. Go to a cabin by the lake. In a lot of ways, this could be perfect timing. Literally going out on top. Like, she's not going to go up. You know what I mean? Going out on top. And then, all right, I'm over here now. Saturn 12th house. It's been great. So it's never too late. You see, that's why I'm bringing this chart to your attention. It is never too late. Don't ever count yourself out of the game. There's always something that you can do, some area you can grow from. And in Linda's case, it's professional. And I believe this has eluded her for a while. She's taking the right steps. She's getting that training, Saturn 9th house. Professionally, Capricorn, hello. This is not philosophical. This is not Sagittarian kind of, philosophical navel gazing stuff. No, I love Sagittarius. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you guys know what I'm saying. All right, so I wanted to share that chart with you. It's actually a good story. Let me check in with everybody, see where you are. A lot of the great artists started late. Okay. What else do we have? That's so cool. Congratulations. Yeah, man, I'm really pulling for her. If you knew her, you'd really dig her. She's one of the good people. You know what I mean? Just really one of the good people. She could really use a good break. All right. Speaking of break, I'm going to break on out of here. Say goodnight to you guys. It's been great. It's been great hanging out. It is never too late. Absolutely. Don't ever count yourself out. Never do that. Never count yourself out. You can find me over at robertphoenix.com, my website, and Facebook. And the webinar that we're doing on the 20th of October, come check it out. It'll be a good webinar. Really good webinar. And that's about it. Have a great new moon. I'll be back tomorrow with 15 minutes of flame. And we'll get into some flamage. And take good care of yourself, each and every one of you. Love you all. And have a great Sunday night. Go out, check out that new moon tomorrow night and the Draconheads.